Okay. Hi, this is Katie. I'm going to be talking about an article where the authors used focus groups to evaluate the Amazon Kindle for use in their libraries. And I'm on my neighbor's internet now, so hopefully I'll stay online. All the photos are Flickr Creative Commons licensed images, and there's a citation to the article, should you find that useful. So the authors posed 3 questions at the beginning of their article. The last 2 are ones that I find more interesting and probably how they got their library dean to agree to buy 36 of the things. But they really only approach and answer to the first one with these focus groups. Is the Kindle an acceptable alternative to the printed book for library users? Basically, just do people like it? But as the title said, this is results from initial focus groups, and they plan on having more things follow. So, like most focus group studies, this was inductive exploratory research using non-probability sampling. This is an overview of the methodology they used. For participant selection, they basically relied on available subjects. They opened it up to all the library staff and faculty and some members of the other university faculty. They don't say how they selected those people. They don't say why they didn't use students. Usually with a focus group you want to include your target user group, but they have professors and staff. They basically had an all-hands meeting and said, who wants a free Kindle for a year and $100 to spend on content? They got 36 volunteers, so they ordered 36 Kindles. Before they distributed them, they did an online survey where they asked about people's reading interests, their comfort with technology, what were they expecting, that sort of thing. And then they used that survey to formulate the questions for the focus groups. They distributed the Kindles, and then about a month later, they had the focus group sessions. They broke people down into 6 groups. They met for about an hour each, and they asked them several open-ended questions about their reading habits, the Kindle products and services they used, which features they'd like to see added, and whether or not reading on a Kindle equated to or could ever replace reading a book in print. The sessions were probably recorded. They don't actually say in the article, but because of the level of detail, some of the quotes and stuff, I think they probably were. Then they summarized their findings just by subject. It's not clear that they did any particular kind of coding. Where's the button? There we go. So what they found in the literature review and with their focus groups was kind of 2 things. In the literature, they found that industry analysts and a lot of people in the library community are saying, and have been saying, ebook readers, they're the future. They're going to change the way we read, and they're going to do it soon. But then results from user studies, a lot of them in libraries say, maybe, but the future isn't here yet. There's a lot of physical problems with the hardware, stuff like ergonomics and eye strain, and then there's software and format problems, compatibility across different readers, digital rights management issues, especially for libraries. Publishers are hesitant to grant the rights that libraries want in these things, and that kind of paralleled what they found in the focus group. They said that the Kindle was a significant advancement of ebook reader technology, and the participants in the groups were split about 50-50 actually about whether this could be an acceptable alternative to the printed book. But even with this kind of bright general picture, there were still a lot of real specific complaints that the technology still needs to evolve more. There were a lot of complaints about the physical design, the buttons, that the graphics were shoddy in a lot of different ways, and that it was too expensive. And then particularly worrisome, I think, for this user base is content questions. People thought there weren't enough scholarly titles, especially older ones. There were maybe more textbooks than they expected, but they were too expensive. And then there were questions about readability of things like math textbooks, where you got to go back and forth between the text and diagrams and things. And just overall, on content, people found it kind of spotty. So here's a closer look at some of their findings, people's wish list items, especially the physical design ones. And then I've put it up in comparison to the new Kindle, so you can see either Amazon read this article or their own focus group said about the same thing, because many of the common wish list items were implemented in the new Kindle. You're not supposed to accidentally turn pages with the new buttons. The graphics changed in a lot of ways, but color, light, touchscreen, probably too expensive to implement. And then these last 2, which really were kind of the biggest, I think, remain open questions. Reasonableness of the cost is debatable. It's down 10% since these guys bought theirs from $400 to $360. I don't know. And then for a wide range of titles. More are added all the time, but whether the list is comprehensive enough for a research library is a tough question. So, what does all this mean for the library? Remember their second and third questions. Is there a role for Kindle in research libraries, and is this a cost-effective way for them to deliver information to users? And they didn't really ask here. And a focus group is probably not the best way to tell anyway. Content complaints are a clue that maybe not, and some of the participants raised licensing and distribution issues even without being asked. So basically the authors say they plan on doing more articles, but it seemed like they just really wanted to get something out there initially, and they're going to follow up later, one I think later this year. So things this article illustrated, at least to me, is that more detail is better. Please, if you're writing one of these things, include things like how you gathered your data, did you record it, how did you analyze it. Secondly, that multiple methods can be good. You have all these different things in your toolkit, and you can combine things like a survey and a focus group. Third, that multiple groups can be good. I know Babby says people like to do at least 2 different focus groups. Here they did 6, and I think that was cool. The more times groups of people independently say the same thing, the more persuasive that is. Groupthink is less likely to have happened. And then I think really focus groups can be really useful for certain types of questions, but that list of questions is pretty short. So, speaking of questions, anybody have any? I think I'm done.
Thank you, Katie. That was a wonderful presentation. I especially love the graphics you have here. It's just great to see the progress that you made throughout the semester. I mean, this for all of you. The capability that you have to apply what you have learned in class about all these different methods, and to evaluate research products, to critically examine the methodologies used in different research studies published in the literature. That's just wonderful.